I'm Mark Small. It's a civil discourse now, where I just kind of pop up once in a while with short things on the internet. Um, there was a sign on Interstate 70 going east as you're headed into Indianapolis right before 465 in the mid 1970s. It said, "God, guns, and guts made this country great. Let's keep all three." And I was thinking this afternoon about how free do we feel in America? I mean, there's been such a ramped up urging of firearms, far more than anybody has owned before in private ownership, from a really bastardized interpretation of the Second Amendment. How do little kids go to school worrying about shooter drills? How does that make them feel more free? Or people going into malls being concerned about getting shot? I was in a local tavern weekend before last. A couple of people walked in, hadn't been in the bar before, I've never seen them since, wearing sidearms just to make a point. Walking in, showing they had guns. Does that make you more free? I think back to God, guns, and guts. No, no, when it came to religion, the religion problem was what happened. People wanted to have freedom from religion as much as they wanted freedom of religion, so that there'd be more tolerance of people. In terms of guns, guns didn't win us anything. We won the Revolutionary War against Britain because of the distance between Britain and the United States, not because we had more or better guns. They outarmed us. They ran out of money and just they couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't fight us over here. And guts, how much guts did it take for us to give indigenous peoples blankets infected with smallpox bacteria? You know, it didn't take a whole lot of courage. When you look at the times in this country when we really have started to approach greatness, that's when people stood up and refused to allow certain things to happen. 1954 was a really important point because Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, and there are other cases involved too. But that was the lead case, and that's why it's titled Brown versus Board of Education Topeka. People didn't want to stand for segregated schools anymore. And that was a 9-0 decision by the United States Supreme Court, saying that separate is inherently unequal. We started to see greatness when people started questioning our government's role overseas and south of our borders in terms of overthrowing other governments or putting in our military where we didn't have an armed conflict until we arrived there. And we overthrew governments that were elected just because our corporations, wanted to get better access to natural resources. In other words, they wanted to pay pennies on the dollar. And so we installed dictators to do that. Chile is an example, Argentina another, Nicaragua, Guatemala. We did that. And then the dictators didn't even give the pennies to the people. And what are the people going to do? They're starving. They have a dictatorship over them. Well, they either overthrow that dictatorship or they move north. How can we complain when we overthrew their governments? But in the 1960s, people started to object to this. In the 1970s, we started to say, no, we can't do that. There's an anti-war movement that really was pivotal in stopping the armed incursion we had in Vietnam. Now, that's when we started to see the EPA came into existence during Republican administration. So we were cleaning up the air and the water. Now, those were the times in which we were approaching greatness. And those were the things upon which Ronald Reagan, his handlers, fed to say that, well, we've got a crisis because nobody takes us seriously anymore. In other words, if we're not bombing the hell out of them and killing them and taking what they have, they won't take us seriously. Well, that's actually what we should have been doing. Not. We should be a country of peace. We shouldn't go to war. We should cut our military budget in half. There's no reason for us to spend that kind of money on anything. As far as religion, we need to get it out of the schools and out of government. And as far as guns, I've said this before and I'll continue to say it, they kill people. And owning a gun for security in your home is counterproductive. It doesn't work. It's more likely you're going to get killed or somebody in your home, a loved one, is going to be killed or hurt than it is you're going to prevent any crime. Burglars love to steal guns. They don't love to steal things when people are home. And that's the only time you can use a gun to defend your home. And as far as guts are concerned, it takes a lot of guts to stand up to a crowd that's self-righteous and say, no, we don't do this. It's wrong. It's wrong, to wear an armband during a moratorium against the Vietnam War wasn't real popular. It takes courage to stand up to people and say no. So we've got to start doing that. It's not guns that got anything. It's thought and reason. I'm Mark Small, Civil Discourse Now. Peace, love, happiness. Take care.